Good morning, this is Faith and Books, and as part of my Sustainability July, I wanted to talk about something that is, something I think about a lot, and that is how to be a locavore in the wintertime when you don't, the only fresh vegetables and fruit that you can find at the store have been shipped from who knows where, South America, California. I'm in Virginia, so California isn't that local. Or sometimes it's halfway across the world, New Zealand or something. So how do you feed yourself healthy? How do you eat in a healthy way if you don't want to buy stuff that's been shipped from far away because you're trying to reduce your food miles, and all that causes, all the problems with that. So I actually think about this topic. And so this is what I've come up with. Now, I am not a canner. Like, I do garden, but I don't have enough space to really grow food that will last me all year. And I did not grow up canning. So this is all relatively new to me. But there are kind of these hacks that you can do, or different ways of thinking that help you know that you're eating nutritious food in the winter. You're not going to be eating the wonderful harvest of all these leafy greens and that sort of thing like you would in other seasons, but you're still eating pretty healthy, and you're eating local. So the first thing is that probably nobody ever thinks about is herbal teas. Herbal teas can be very high in nutrition, and you can grow your own herbs and make tea, and you can have herb gardens in the winter in your house. They're tricky. I've never been very successful with them, but other people are, and I could be if I kept trying. Maybe I'll try this winter. But some herbs are extremely easy to grow in the summertime. And they're in the mint family. Growing mint, lemon balm, catmint or catnip is super easy to grow. In fact, it's almost like a weed. You have to work on controlling them, so they're best in containers. But all of those are super nutritious, and you can either make fresh tea or you can dry them and make them into a tea, and get one of those steepers, those balls, or there are these things called something socks. I'll link to stuff below. But so you can make your own teas, and if you don't grow them, you can try to locally source them, because I bet there's in your organic grocery store or health food store, or a farm nearby that has a farm stand, or I bet you could find some local source of teas. And if you have a cup or two of that every day in the wintertime, which is what I want to do anyway, I always want to be drinking something hot in the wintertime, you're going to be getting nutrition that way. So that's one way to be local. And related to that is, if you do have an herb garden that you're growing in your house, then, and I wouldn't get a kit because I don't think those kits are so good, but just find like some that are easier to grow, maybe basil, and I don't know what else, dill. I'm trying to think of some common herbs that you can grow in some small pots in your house, by a window, along with the mint things like lemon balm and mint. Anytime you add them to your food, you're adding nutrition. So you're eating fresh greens that way. So you could add it, sprinkle them over your vegetables or your stews or your casseroles, or it would, your soups. That would add a lot of nutrition as well. And then I wanted to show you, this is a tea that I buy from the farm where I buy my meat, and this is made here in Virginia, and this is such a delicious tea. It's Tulsi Rose tea, and oh my gosh, it's so good. So that is, like, I didn't grow this myself, but it is locally sourced tea. And it's full of nutrients and antioxidants and that sort of thing. So tea and just growing fresh herbs. Another thing that you can grow that I find easier than growing herbs in my house is microgreens or sprouts. I'm going to try sprouting. I haven't done that yet. But microgreens are really easy to grow. You just need the proper equipment. You just need, some kind of a tray, like one of those trays that you, here, wait, I got some right here. You could get one of these trays, that you start seedlings in. Or you can even recycle, like, containers that you get at the store, like especially the ones where you get takeout. You could use those. You get some potting soil. You stick the potting soil in, get it organic potting soil. And then go to one of the seed companies and get their microgreens packet, and it'll be a bigger pack with lots and lots of seeds. What you do with microgreens is you're not intending to grow the plants to full size, so you don't have to worry about spacing. You plant the seeds really thickly, and then you keep them moist so that they'll sprout and grow. And then that's when they're at their most nutritious, when the seed, it's all that nutrition that's compacted into the seed to help the plant get started. Once that sprouts, you just take scissors and you go in and you trim it off, and you can sprinkle it on your potatoes. You can use it as sort of a bed to put your chicken breast on, or your pork chop or whatever on when you're serving it. And that way you sneak in fresh vegetables, and they're highly nutritious. It's like taking vitamins. They're really, really powerful. You can also do that with sprouts. And I want to try sprouting because the thing about microgreens is they're super easy to grow. But I never know what to do with the spent dirt. Like, I just throw them in my backyard. But that is a little bit wasteful, and you have to go and buy this potting soil. With sprouts, you really don't. You just need like a jar and water and the seeds. I think you have to be more attentive though. Like, you have to rinse them regularly. You have to remember just how to do it. I don't think it's time consuming at all. So I'm going to try and do it. Hopefully I won't be too ADD, and I'll remember the different steps and to rinse. I think like for a week you have to rinse twice a day or something. I'm not sure what the instructions are. But I do want to try sprouting because it's the same result. Microgreens and sprouts are pretty much the same thing, just two different methods. And they are really, really high in nutrition. So you're getting something nutritious there. So fresh herbs, tea, herbal teas, microgreens or sprouts, which are easy to do and not time consuming. And then the other thing is just either grow them or source them locally from farmers markets or a farm stand or your local organic grocery store that tends to buy local, whatever. But cooking with onions, garlic, and mushrooms, they're highly nutritious foods. And that's like, a typical ingredients that you're going to want to put in anything you're baking, casseroles or whatever you're making in the winter. And those three things are really, really nutritious, and you can locally source all of them. So, if you dry the mushrooms, they last a long time, and onions and garlic, if you store them properly, will last a long time. So, just make sure that you include those three things in your diet during the wintertime. You will be getting a lot of nutrition. Without having to go out and buy, these, mixed salad bags or whatever from California or whatever. And then another thing you can do is you can either grow or locally source things that will just naturally store for a long time. So the two things that, to me, we eat and they store really for a really long time just in the pantry are sweet potatoes and butternut squash. And if you have space, if you have a shelf somewhere where it's kind of dark, you can just line these things up. But go to a farmer's market, buy up a bunch of butternut squash, keep them in this closet where it's dark, and they will last you for months. Now I think, you know, you know, in March or April, maybe they're going to lose their flavor. Maybe they're not as nutritious, but they will store for a surprisingly long time. Um, so those are two um, things that you can just buy locally and just keep in your home and eat them. You know, and you're going to be getting your veggies in. Um, and let's see, was there anything else that I wanted to? Oh, and then of course there is the canned thing. I don't can, but if you have a farm you buy from or a farmer's market or whatever, where they do have canned or fermented vegetables, buy those, and then just you know they're locally sourced, and you can pull them out and serve them. If you like, there's a lot of farms around here that do pick your own, and they'll have their own strawberry preserves or their own apple butter that they made. And you can buy those things and use them, you know, later on in the winter when you want something fresh and, you know, fruity, or and it's still local, and it still probably has way more vitamins in it and nutrition in it than store-bought commercial brands. And then the last thing is you can try to grow, if you're a gardener, and this is like advanced, I've tried it once before, didn't work, but I'm rethinking everything. And I'm going to use a cold frame in my garden. You don't even need a big space. If you have space outside, dig up a small space, amend the soil so that it's really fertile, plant some broccoli or spinach or something that's cold hardy, cabbage, and buy one of those cold frames or make a cold frame. It's not even a big project. You can sort of make a makeshift thing. You have to weigh it down because that's what happened to mine. The wind kept blowing it away. And then just tend to it. And you just have this tiny little garden, and you just tend to it, and you can try to extend the season so that you're still eating fresh spinach, fresh cabbage, fresh broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, whatever, those cold hardy vegetables. If you manage to make it a little bit warmer and you take good care of it, you can have it. You know, some people manage to grow things like that all through the winter. That's advanced gardening. However, if you don't garden at all and you just focus on that one particular thing, trying to grow that one particular thing and read about it and follow the steps, you might very well be successful. And it's kind of like, since you're just focusing on this one thing, you might really turn out well for you. There was one other thing that I was going to talk about. Oh yeah, potatoes are super easy to grow. You can grow them in bags. Just look it up, or I'll link to a YouTube channel that explains it. You can grow potatoes, and then you can basically keep them in the ground. I mean, unless you have like a really super hard winter. Carrots are the same thing. You can keep things like root vegetables in the ground all winter and go and dig them up when you need them, and then you can actually store them in the ground. So that's another. Now that's probably more advanced, but those are just some ways that I've thought about how I can avoid going and buying all those vegetables and fruits that have been shipped from so far away. And how can I avoid that and yet at the same time know that I'm being conscientious about my health during the winter season. Okay, I hope you found that helpful. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.